Hey, welcome to Tent Talk. This is the show all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager, a farmer, or a food producer selling at farmers markets, or just a curious farmers market shopper, this is the podcast for you. Today we bring you a Best of Tent Talk episode featuring Portland Farmers Market's Amber Holland, talking about challenges she's overcome as a market operator and creating new programs to enhance her markets. We know some markets are just opening for their season, and year-round markets are getting a busy bump during this bountiful spring. So we hope you'll find our interview with Amber interesting and helpful.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
I can hear you.
Yay, can you hear us?
Good. Yes.
Cool. Excellent.
Kat?
Yeah, how are you?
Hi, Kat. I'm good.
We tried so hard to get together when I was in Portland.
Oh, it didn't work out?
Kept missing each other, yeah.
Oh, no. What, are you busy or something?
Right. Well.
So, being a native Portlander, have farmers markets always been a part of your community? Like, did your family shop at markets when you were growing up?
Absolutely not. So, in fact, when I applied for this job, I had never even been to a farmer's market.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. 12, almost 13 years ago, that is.
Wow.
So I started out working in animal care, and through undergraduate kind of was on the veterinary path. And basically what I found is that I gravitated towards more of the coordination roles. So setting up spay-neuter clinics in rural areas, or managing volunteer veterinarians coming in was where I was good at it, and I also really liked doing it almost more than taking care of cute dogs and cats.
Yeah.
So when I came back from a few years of doing that, I realized that I didn't want to be a vet, and didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I guess I didn't really care so much. I just wanted to work with really passionate people about doing things that are really important just in general, whether it's working with animals or developing small businesses or social justice or food access or whatever it was. So I went back to grad school, and the job with Portland Farmers Market as a market coordinator opened. It was part-time, it was seasonal, it was outside, it was manual labor, and I liked all of those things while in school. And I just kind of stayed, and I did. I fell in love with farmers markets. I fell in love with the vibe and the atmosphere and the community that you are kind of instantly a part of when you shop at a farmer's market or vend at a farmer's market or work for a farmer's market. So that's how I got into it. And I graduated from grad school, and I realized that I was doing exactly what I wanted to do, which is working with really passionate people, helping them get to where they want to be. And it was kind of a perfect fit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like a great job, as we know. Right? It's just kind of checks all the boxes if you're that kind of person. So that's so awesome. Yep. So how has your role at the Portland Farmers Markets evolved? So you started as a market coordinator. And then we're going to speak more about the programs that you have there, but did you transition into different roles as you went along, or how did that kind of take off from what you started doing?
Yeah, so I started as a market coordinator, which our market coordinators really do the logistic stuff on site. So not a lot of that preseason planning or vendor applications, but really being on site, kind of putting out fires when needed and supporting vendors and giving service to shoppers. It is a part-time and seasonal position. And so anytime there was, how grassroots organizations can be, it's like, oh, we need someone to manage volunteers, or we need someone to take on the website or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up doing a little bit of everything throughout the last 13 years that I've been with PFM, including volunteer management. And then for a couple of years, I worked part-time as our accounting assistant. And then, about 3 years ago, I moved into a year-round full-time position and started as operations director this year. So it does give me a really unique perspective in my job, because I understand how the billing works, for example, and I understand what it is to chase vendors around and try and get payments from them, or engage volunteers and keep them satisfied and wanting to come back as well. So
nice. So that's always nice, I feel like, when someone makes their way toward the top, just doing all those jobs along the way, because it really gives you an understanding that you can't get any way else, anytime else.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. Yeah. And a level of satisfaction, because I understand the kind of the nuances of other people's jobs. And so I can be a little more supportive and understanding at times.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Exactly.
So you've got the huge, beautiful year-round Portland State Market, but then you also have 5 other seasonal markets, and they all seem to be on different schedules. How do you determine the length of each market season and when they start and stop?
It really depends on the market and the community that we're serving. So we've got 3 neighborhood markets and then 2 other downtown markets, including in addition to the Portland State University market. Our shortest market is one of the ones downtown, and it really thrives during tourist season, and then it really kind of dies off. So we have made adjustments to that schedule to make it really successful for vendors.
Is that the Pioneer Square market?
Yes.
Yeah, I was surprised that season dropped off because it seems like Portland's so full of tourists all the time now. But so I was surprised to see that one was closed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more of the fair weather tourists come in September.
Gotcha.
It's like, it's raining. I'm not going to a farmer's market.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. And then our neighborhood markets, we've really listened to our vendors and our shoppers. Most of our shoppers at our neighborhood markets, they don't care if it's raining or 95 degrees. They're going to come to the market and they're going to support their favorite vendors. So as soon as those vendors are really ready to provide products for the market, then we're really ready to extend those seasons. If vendors really aren't into it, like our Lentz International Farmers Market, it is a June through November market. And in June, it's kind of a slow start. There's only about 60% of the vendors are really ready with a whole lot of product. So we're not really going to push to open that market in May like we would our King market, where it's full of produce in May. So we really kind of try and work with our vendors to make sure that the market is what our shoppers want, but also if the growing season isn't going to allow for an extended season, then we just won't do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I thought Lentz was interesting because of all the international vendors.
Yes, definitely.
It was kind of different. And then one of your markets isn't going to be back next year, it looks like. So how do you get to the decision to close a market?
Yeah, we closed a Northwest market beginning this year, and it was a decision that we made after the first of the year. So a lot of our publications still make reference to it. We're here for the farmers. We're here for their success and for their need for an outlet. Those fields just keep producing food, and they've got to take it somewhere. So when we get a small market that is kind of on a decline, and a decline can be maybe shopper attendance or vendor attendance, when you start to feel that decline is when you start to really pay attention, and it's like, what's going to happen? With our Northwest market, we lost vendor interest is really what it came down to. Gotcha. And without a good lineup of vendors, we're just not going to put the effort forward. Who's it for, basically?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So we did decide to close that market. So we're down to 6 from 7.
Which is still a lot of markets.
Yeah, still plenty.
How many vendors do you have at the Portland State Market?
That one, we actually hit our all-time high for the season earlier this month at 125 vendors, which takes about 175 stalls.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then those numbers drop as low as 45 in like January as our lowest vendor count, but we also reduce our footprint back to a single park block.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so we were wondering, that was another question, is how you adjust the market when vendors leave for the season. Because I know we're familiar with a few vendors that are just gone, like November, December, January, and then I guess there's others, especially produce vendors, that are gone for a little bit longer and then they're back.
Yeah. So we do back off on our size a little bit. It helps with our own staff capacity. Our shopper counts definitely, our peak summer numbers for shopper counts are around 15 or 16,000. And in the wintertime, a really good day is going to hit about 5,000.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, so a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that reduction in shopper count just kind of naturally reduces the vendor interest.
Sure.
And it just works out.
Do you think that's such a drastic change because you are in kind of a tourist adjacent area there?
Yeah, and Portland winters can be pretty terrible.
So people just stay inside, order Amazon, right?
Yeah,
Grocery delivery is happening there.
Yeah. Yep, you betcha.
But in addition to the seasonal stuff, you've had to work around a lot of layout changes with all the construction around Portland State and in your park blocks area there, the street construction and things. How do you approach changing vendor placement in the market when you're having to make those, when construction fences are going up and down and different areas are dug up? How do you decide who moves and how to rearrange things?
I try, we try to make we try to make our decisions as collective as possible. So really bringing in as many players as we can when we can. And ultimately we make the decision for the market. So one of the vendors that had to move for this construction is one of our, I think they've been with us for 23 years. So the justice of having to move a really long-term vendor, didn't feel particularly fair, but the support that we gave for that vendor to find their success, whether it's placing signage at their old location to get their shoppers to follow them, maybe reducing their stall fees by a little bit to kind of account for any loss that they may have seen. And both of our large farms that we were the most concerned about because they had serious moves, they recovered after about a month, but there was definitely a month of sales that were not great.
Huh, interesting. So how did they react? Have most of them been understanding of the fact that you're just doing it because you've got all this construction and it's not like you have a choice? Or we have certain vendors that if you move them 10 feet, they're hysterical. And then we have other vendors that just kind of go with the flow and they're chill. What kind of reactions were you getting there?
Mostly understanding. It's funny that the hysterics that come from a market move of 10 feet tend to be when you least expect it.
Yeah, exactly.
I just needed you to get off of the sidewalk, right? And just move over. And
my customers will never find me here.
Really was something. But it was fortunate that we had this giant fencing that went up and all of this construction, a visible reason for having to move a vendor. It definitely kind of let us put the blame on something else and focus on solutions and getting off to getting as good of a market as possible. Yeah, but I started those conversations with the farms that had to really move. I started those conversations middle of last year, and we walked the market and I threw out a couple of solutions. So it was like, here's the facts. The facts are that you can't stay here because if you do, congestion will be a total nightmare. So we do have to move you, and we've got 6 months to plan for that move. And here are 3 options that I think could work for you.
Yeah, I find that's really helpful if you can give somebody choices so they're part of the decision and part of the change.
Yeah,
exactly. Nobody wants to be surprised on Saturday morning to find out that they're not where they were supposed to be.
No, that never goes well.
Then I'm in tears.
Yeah, right?
Exactly.
We're all
Everyone's crying.
Everyone's crying then.
So Amber, I've heard and also read in your bio that one of your passions is to work to reduce waste at farmers markets. And it seems like the Portland Farmers Market has worked really hard to implement some different waste reduction programs. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about, how you got really interested in that and what PFM has done to help at their actual farmers markets.
Sure. Well, as market staff, it's our responsibility to deal with the waste of the market. So after 2 years of hauling bags and bags and bags of trash, like you're looking for any relief at all. So
it's totally self-serving,
right? Yeah, always the best incentive.
I'm sure you're looking for a more philosophical response. But it was like, if I could haul 5 last bags of trash, I would do that for sure.
Yep.
And then years ago, we started a program called Evergreen, and that was a coworker that has since moved on, but is still a very dear friend, and she was definitely the driving force behind us getting on commercial composting and requiring our vendors to use wares that were approved by the composting facility that would, in theory, break down, and our waste would go from landfill into compost. It seemed like a good idea, and because we were very close friends, like I kind of caught the bug too and was there like sorting trash and digging through the compost to get out contaminants and going through all of that. What I found though is that fewer and fewer people were using reusable things because they had this perception that compost is healthy for the environment.
Yeah, huge false security.
It really is. And so I almost felt like I was hauling more bags of waste. They just happened to be in green bags. So when that failed, when our city's commercial composting failed, and it literally, like, things just didn't break down because there was so much of this fake plastic and not enough of the organic matter, that they eliminated our commercial composting. and we knew we couldn't go back. So with that, it was more about avoiding the waste in the first place and really educating shoppers and vendors about what it is to reduce our waste at the farmers market. And at the same time, with our durable dining program, which has reduced all kinds of waste, we found that the experience for shoppers was also improved. Most people are either sitting cross-legged in a park with their plate of food, or they're balanced on a ledge somewhere, maybe just a bench. We only put out a certain number of tables for seating. So when they had a durable plate to sit on, it suddenly was just a more enjoyable experience. You weren't balancing a crepe that was all unruly on a paper plate that was folding underneath them. They actually had a plate to use a fork and enjoy their meal, which our food is incredible. It's this really high quality food made with the best ingredients, and then is served on this kind of gross throwaway thing. So now it really feels like we've upped our game a little bit, and as a consequence, reduced the waste.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for people that don't know, can you elaborate on what durable dining is?
Yes. Durable dining is a program of ours where it's had many iterations as we've worked through and figured and failed and gotten feedback and figured it all out. But ultimately, what our durable dining program is now is that hot food vendors at our PSU market and our neighborhood markets are required to serve their hot food on durable plates using durable utensils and durable cups. So those are plastic plates that are taken back and washed and reused time after time. We do allow some paper. So if you've got a boat, for example, you can put like a plastic or a basket, not a boat, but if you've got a basket, you can line it with paper to kind of eliminate some of that real mess. But otherwise, everything is durable, and those things are being used over and over again.
So does the market provide the durable plates, or is that something that the vendor has to provide?
In the very beginning, we toyed with the idea of providing, and we started with forks because forks are easy and everybody uses them. Our idea was that we would own them and we would contract with someone else to wash and store and charge vendors for like a rental. So we would take responsibility for the loss and for getting them to market and all of that. Vendors kind of got together and decided on their own that they would rather do their own thing. So it evolved into something where the vendors actually own all of their plates, cups, and utensils, and we set up fairly robust busing stations so that the vendors can get their stuff back. They're also required to use unique items, so they can't have the same plate as their neighbor or anyone else in the market. It's got to be a different color or different shape or something so that we know who to get it back to.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
I love that idea too, though, because my husband is always like wanting to eat like at food trucks or stuff, and I just hate standing up eating from a paper plate.
Yeah.
I feel like if I had a real plate, we could compromise, and I'll be like, okay, I'll stand up and eat if I have a real plate.
A little more civilized. Yeah.
So that seems amazing, but also like a pretty large infrastructure to have to set up and implement into your own farmers market. So what do you think, besides doing like a durable dining type thing, what would be just like a really simple way to reduce some waste at farmers markets that vendors or farmers market managers could do?
Yeah. Getting to the durable dining is something that went over years, and we had vendor allies, and there's a pretty big story behind it. So I certainly wouldn't recommend that farmers markets jump from styrofoam plates into durable dining. I don't think it would go over very well with anybody. So I think probably some of the easiest ways to reduce the waste are encouraging reusable shopping bags, reusable coffee cups. And then one thing that we do is we offer water bottle refill stations in our markets. So we just get those big jugs of water. We label them with, water bottle refill. When it's hot, we throw ice in them. We encourage people, if they are, using a cup or something that's throwaway, at least they can reuse it one more time before they throw it into the trash. And that's probably the simplest things to do. And the reason why it's the simplest is because markets can sell those things. Get a reusable tote with your brand on it and sell them. People want to buy those, and then they'll be available and maybe a little less waste and more revenue for the market. Same with coffee cups and water bottles, even for that matter.
Do you do the durable dining program at all of your farmers markets or just the Portland State one?
Portland State for sure, and then our neighborhood markets, because what we found is that PSU we focus on because of the volume there, and we have to do something, we feel. Our other downtown markets, because they're so heavily, there's so many tourists there, and also there's a lot of people who work downtown, come over for lunch, take it back to their office. We just don't feel like it's a good fit. It would result in a lot of vendors losing their durable wares because they would wander out of the market. So we don't require it there. If vendors want to do that, we'll always support that and offer busing stations for them. But no, it's really the neighborhood markets where we see the same repeat shoppers every single week, and then our Portland State Market where we see the most volume of waste.
Gotcha. Cool. Do you have any suggestions of ways that vendors can help encourage their customers to be more eco-conscious? I know, at our farmers market in Little Italy, there are a lot of tourists. There's people from all over the place that may not be from areas where they're used to not just throwing away styrofoam with every meal. So do you have any suggestions that vendors could kind of help educate or implement in their own booths?
Yeah, and I think it's really difficult with tourists because you don't know your audience. It's like this mystery, right? You just sit there and you wait to see what happens. But any time that vendors can offer an incentive to reduce the waste, I think it's a good idea. So if you've got a coffee vendor, for example, who's willing to do 50 cents off your cup of coffee if you use your own reusable mug, and making that known, or a farm vendor that if you bring your own reusable bag, maybe you get 10 cents off or something like that. Also, maybe not offering or over packaging things. So if you are a farm vendor and someone comes up with a produce bag full of green beans and wants to check out with green beans, there's probably no need to put that in an additional handled bag.
Right. Yeah, agreed.
I find that at our farmers market too. I'll have my reusable bag with me, and I'll buy like hummus or something, and I know that they see me with my reusable bag, and then he'll go to put it in a plastic bag. And it's like, no, I can just put it in here. Right. So just training vendors to look to see if the shopper has a reusable bag before they grab that plastic bag. I think that could make a huge difference.
Yeah.
We do also allow our vendors to sell reusable shopping bags. So in the city of Portland, handled plastic bags, what we call T-shirt bags, have been banned altogether. And that's at retail stores, farmers markets, everywhere. So we allow our vendors, we don't allow them to sell swag of any other kind, but they're allowed to sell a reusable branded tote for $5 or less.
That's good.
And you can usually get those kind of lesser quality, but they still hold up just fine, for about $1.50 a piece. And so there's a little bit of profit there. Your brand gets out into the world, and you're reducing plastic bags in the landfill.
Yeah, and then that's available for shoppers who may not be close to maybe like your information booth that has bags for sale, but they need a bag right then.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We can't do it in our farm booths, unfortunately, because our ag department in California doesn't allow, that's considered a value-added product not of your own production. And so it's illegal for them to sell T-shirts or bags in a certified farm booth.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're working on it. Okay. Did not like the sound of that.
So frustrating.
It's so strict.
Hardcore. So crazy.
I mean, that's only one of the things that that's really restrictive on, but
I was going to say the last thing for vendors to kind of encourage customers to be less wasteful is to maybe talk about the ways that they reduce waste on their farm or in their production kitchen or whatever it may be. If the vendor is really committed to waste reduction, vendors, I don't know about at your market, but vendors at our markets, they're like rock stars. They are the experts in farming or the experts in food production or recipe development or whatever it may be. If they believe in something and share it with the shoppers, that's their captive audience. And they may get people who are like, oh, you've chosen not to use plastic in farming. I can choose not to use a plastic bag for my 3 apples.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's contagious. Yeah,
that
attitude. Yeah, for sure. In your bio, Amber, it says that you're proud of the way that the PFM has created inclusive spaces for the community.
Yeah. And it's our whole objective with farmers markets is one to support food producers and growers, but also to create these vibrant community gathering spaces. And we spend a lot of time talking about what that means and what are vibrant community gathering spaces and by whose definition. So one of the things that we've done for years, since about 2011, is matching SNAP benefits at our markets, and that we do at all of our neighborhood markets at this point, and we'll continue to do so. Lots of markets in Oregon do that, and I think across the nation for sure.
Yeah, we do that.
So that's
at ours.
one. Yeah, so that's one way that's. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for the impact that we make when we make that a priority for shoppers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then other things that we've really kind of looked at, how do we increase the diversity of both our vendors and our shoppers at the market? So more recently, the organization has really been going a little deeper into our diversity, equity, and inclusion kind of objective through our strategic plan. And currently working on an equity lens, which I think I'm really excited about. I don't even know how it's really going to be used in all of the aspects of the things that we do, but to have something where when you're going to make a decision, you can stop and pause and ask yourself, is this serving our equity objectives or goals, and is it inclusive?
Mm-hmm.
We also offer translation services for vendors and shoppers.
Oh.
We don't advertise it as well as we could, but we're getting there. Where if a shopper comes and is non-English speaking, we do have on-demand translation services that we can use. So call up on the phone and get any language in the world right then. And we're also doing that for our vendor recruitment. So we'll go and talk to different organizations that support underserved business owners and farmers, and really kind of make it known what we're looking for, make it known what the process is for getting into our markets, and really just kind of doing the work to talk about what we're doing and why it is for everybody, and why, some of our requirements seem like big hurdles for folks, but if we can offer support and patience and get everybody there, then it's worth the effort. And that the big sticking point that we have is that we require any non-farmer to be sourcing 25% of their ingredients directly from farms. And if English is not your first language, that can seem like impossible. There's no way you can do that. You don't know who these farmers are. Why would you do that when you can go to a distributor and get the same quality of food that maybe came from that farm a couple hands removed? But so really, like, targeted outreach to underserved populations for both our vendors and our shoppers, I would say is the biggest thing that we're doing right now, and really identifying the communities that the markets are serving.
Do you find then do you end up with farmers or vendors in the market then that have challenges with English? And if so, how do your shoppers react to that?
We do, absolutely. This year we invited, I think, 6 or 7 brand new vendors to our Portland State Market, and 5 of them are non-native English speakers. And the English is pretty good, I think good enough to get by, and certainly good enough to serve food. Shoppers are really excited, though. They're excited for something different. They're excited that there is maybe a cultural option at the market, a Chinese street bun kind of thing that you would find in China that's made by a woman that has been in the United States for 5 years and came from there and can share that. You don't really need words when you've got food.
Gotcha, right. It's true.
You just grunt and point.
Yes.
Exactly. We're also visual anyway. We just point to the thing that looks delicious and I'll eat that. Thank you.
That's right.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, so Amber, for our wrap-up question, we always do a question of the week. And this week's question is, what is your favorite or simple way of recycling every day, or just like a creative little thing that you reuse just in your everyday life? It's kind of a super general recycling question.
Yeah. Well, I have one that's personal, and then I also have one that's market related. But my personal one is I love reusing cool things like maps or even like paper shopping bags as wrapping paper. That like brown paper bag from a grocery store makes a really classy wrapping paper that goes with all colors of ribbon. And then just weird things that you find, or like, you go to a national park and you get a map, and using those kinds of things to wrap gifts as well. It's just kind of a unique, fun thing to do. And then for my market one, I would say my most favorite recycling is using traffic cones as, what are they, blowhorns? What do you call them?
Megaphone, like a megaphone.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. The traffic cones as megaphones.
I'm going to try that at the market.
I have not done that. I'm doing that tomorrow.
I'm going to take a video of Kat doing that at the market.
I tell you what, when you need to get a message to your vendors and there's only one way to do it, like, it can totally work.
Right?
Oh my gosh,
Yeah, that's awesome.
funny.
That's awesome.
My mom has always used comics from the newspaper to wrap presents, just my whole life. And my kids are so into it. One of my middle child, he's 9, he's obsessed with comic books in general right now. And now when she wraps gifts for him, the last time he got a gift, it was like a cool other kind of book that she wrapped up, and he's like, I don't even care what's in here. The best part about this gift is this wrapping paper, this comic right here.
It took him forever to open it because he wanted to make sure to read each piece of the
We're all
comic.
waiting for him to open. We're like, open it up. He's like, wait, I'm not done. So it's
That's
entertaining.
excellent.
Recycling and entertaining together.
That's right.
Good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so you stole Kat's answer.
Yeah. Oh.
Actually, though, I've been doing that for
many
years. I
ways.
don't even think of that as recycling anymore. I've been doing it for so long. My husband used to work in construction when we had actual blueprints, and blueprints aren't blue anymore. I don't know if you know that, if you're not in that business, but when they were really blue, they were so beautiful. We used to use those as wrapping paper too. Those were fun. But now it's comics all the way. But we actually find ourselves... My husband's older sister is much older than her, and so she was just on the tail end of the whole depression mentality and things, and much older than him, not much older than her. And so because she was pretty much a cheapskate, she was always appalled by plastic utensils, and she would wash out her Ziploc bags. If anybody brought something in a Ziploc bag, she'd be washing them and reusing them because she was just couldn't stand the cost idea of it.
Yeah.
And so we used to laugh at her. And now I find myself a little stack of Ziploc bags next to my sink that I've washed out. Not so much because of the cost, which I obviously should be paying attention to, but because I just can't stand the idea of that plastic being used once and then going away. So he's always coming by and saying, you've turned into Lyndall.
Linda will be proud.
Linda would be proud. That's right.
It's your homage to her.
Yeah,
I do that too. But my little thing that I do is I love to drink wine out of our hot sauce jars.
Oh,
yeah,
Because
the
they're
jars.
cute.
those
And
make
it's
good,
just-
they do make good glasses.
They're like a little 8-ounce jar.
it's
They're a
and
nice weight.
Yeah, I feel kind of like an old Italian man how to kind of like drink out of those like straight-sided
jars.
glasses.
Yeah, that does make a good glass.
So that's
like
my
it.
thing.
For sure.
Maybe you should sell those on the side. Baby Clydesdale glasses.
Yeah.
gift
Well,
sets.
Dave always says to people that how like Welch's jam used to
Yeah,
come in those like
those
kind
glasses.
of like Flintstones or
Yeah.
those like cartoon jars.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like our own little
Right.
take on that.
Your Clydesdale.
yeah.
Clydesdale glasses.
Yeah.
Anyway, got a full set?
Yeah.
Collect them all.
Yeah.
How about you, Bridge?
Well, I've been trying very hard to do lots of things. I always bring my own cup everywhere now, which I feel...
You do. You're good about that.
I like to buy beverages all the time. Like, I'm always buying coffee or, like, Italian sodas or something. I like to have, like, a cold drink with me. And I just realized how many cups you accumulate. Like, not just cups, but, like, cup lid straw.
Yeah.
Every time
Yeah.
you do that when you're out. And so just buying, like, 5 reusable plastic cups with screw-on tops and a straw really has saved so much, and I feel like I'm really good about that. And now I'm trying to keep reusable straws in my purse now, too, just to anytime I'm at a restaurant. And a lot of restaurants around here are getting rid of plastic straws, which is awesome. But I like to drink out of a straw, so I like to bring my own, aluminum straw or whatever. But I feel very clever lately because what I've done is enlist my kids in the recycling, and they are taking like cans and bottles to the recycling center, and you get like 5 cents a piece or something, which I have never been really excited about doing, but they are really into it. And so my son is like digging plastic bottles out of everyone's trash can. I told him he can't like go on the street and do it, but like he'll ask people for plastic bottles, and he does. He picks them up out of the trash at school and stuff, and so I feel like he's just saving the earth, and then we take it down to get recycled. And so I feel like getting the kids to work. That's the generation that's going to save us anyways.
Yeah, that's true.
Little entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then he gets to
entrepreneurial and recycling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good combo.
Yeah.
And no work for me, really. It's going to, we should ride our bikes to the recycling instead of driving. That's the next step.
You're driving in your huge SUV.
Yeah, my huge SUV.
To the recycling center.
Yeah, maybe that cancels it out.
Okay, let's think this
It's a
through.
start.
It's a start.
You know the bus goes right by the recycling center at Vaughan, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, now I have an idea.
Awesome. Amber, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, and we can't wait to see you again in February.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Awesome.
It's been
Yeah,
fun.
of
Thanks
course.
so much.
Okay, have a good one.
Thanks.
See you at the conference.
See ya.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this Best of Tent Talk episode. Please leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to Tent Talk and let us know how you are enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. We have some great guests coming up this month. Vendors who leverage the power of farmers markets to propel their businesses into new territory, restaurant owners and chefs who will be discussing the pros and cons of having a weekly market right outside their front door and tell us how they help to join forces with the vendors and farmers, and so many more great episodes coming up, so stay tuned. Be sure to subscribe to our weekly newsletter for lots more market tips, tricks, and information at intensebusiness.com. Remember, that's INTENTS business.com. And follow us on social media at Intense Business. Watch for upcoming Intense events, both live and online, and stay tuned for save the dates for the 2020 Intense Conference coming soon. We can't wait to see you there.